Superintendent of Educational Services, and I will be your host tonight. We're going to go through and introduce our panel, and we'll talk to you about the flow of the evening. First, on my immediate left, Mr. Levinson, could you introduce yourself? Do we have the mic? We're going to play Pass the Mic.
Yes, I'm Ron Levinson, a parent of a fourth grader at Farragut. So obviously very interested in the security situation here, not only currently at elementary, but also as my daughter progresses through the middle school and high school as well. I'm also our district DLAC president and vice chair of the Farragut Site Council, which is charged with developing our safety plan.
Good evening. I'm Jason Sims, the interim police chief, Culver City Police Department, and proud to be here tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. My name is Kwok Tran. I'm the Culver City Unified School District Superintendent. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Holly. I am the middle school principal.
Kimberly Maidenerb. I'm one of the middle school assistant principals.
Good evening, Ingrid Leclerc, another one of the middle school's assistant principals.
Ebony Nicholson, high school assistant principal.
Hi, I'm Halala Hamad, assistant principal at the high school.
Hello, I'm Kelly Tarvett. I'm assistant principal at the high school and a CCUSD parent.
Good evening, Oscar Rodriguez, one of the assistant principals at the high school.
Hi, I'm Lauren Jagnow. I am secretary of the Association of Classified Employees. I'm a noon duty supervisor at El Rincon Elementary, and I am a CCUSD parent with one at the middle school and one at El Rincon.
Hello, my name is Summer McBride. I am a noon duty at El Rincon and a member of the Association of Classified Employees. I have a student at El Rincon, one in the middle school and two at the high school.
Hi, I'm Ray Long. I'm the president of the Culver City Federation of Teachers, and I'm a parent of two children, one at Farragut Elementary and one at Culver City Middle School.
Good evening. My name is Ted Ronchetti. I'm the Director of Safety and Security.
Good evening. My name is Salami Conan. I'm the Director of Programs at the New Earth organization.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Smith, Assistant Superintendent of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Good evening. My name is Jose Alarcon, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
And I'm Robert Quinn, the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
Thank you all, our panel members, for being here tonight as we move through several important conversations. Next, I would like to introduce Mr. Tran with some opening remarks that will shape our work together tonight. We are beginning right at 6:30, and we will be ending right at 8 tonight, just so everybody can plan ahead. Mr. Tran?
Well, good evening. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I understand the weather is not cooperating, but I appreciate seeing you all here. I also appreciate those who are joining us online tonight. I am unable to address those who are online to address their question, but if the members of the public would like to comment online, just use the chat feature for us, and we will get to you guys as soon as we can. The 45 minutes, the first 45 minutes will be kind of a conversation sharing out from our panel members, and then the last 45 minutes is for the members of the audience to come up and share questions with us. To the best of our ability, we have a lot of people up here on stage. That doesn't mean each of us is going to take a chunk of minutes. We're just here for both presenting, sharing, as well as be prepared to address the question you may have. And I'm just going to say this, though, the safety concern has always been part of our district basic delivery to the community. And we did come together over the last few months regarding right after the horrendous incident in Uvalde, Texas. We held several town hall conversations regarding safety. And tonight is something that we get to continue that conversation. And joining me tonight is also the interim chief of the Culver City Police Department, Chief Jason Sims, and I'm inviting him to come up here and share a few words with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for having me tonight. As Superintendent Tran mentioned, my name is Jason Sims. I'm the interim chief of police for our police department. I've been with the department for 23 years and have a lot of experience in working directly with our schools when I was a young detective and working in the different sections throughout our organization. And I thought I'd just start out by talking a little bit about our SRO program, which may come up tonight. And so I'll give you a little information which may help to answer some of the questions some of you may have. So going back in history, our SRO program has been around for about 25 years. It started with a grant program sometime around the year 2000. And at that time, it was a matching grant. And we had 2 SROs. I'm sorry, school resource officer. Thank you very much. And again, we had 2 school resource officers in the beginning. Sometime around 2008, because of budget cuts, we lost one of those positions and it went down to 1. And we've had 1 since that time. And that SRO serves all of the schools in our community, including our private schools. So that's about 14 total schools. And yeah, so that keeps our school resource officer pretty busy. But currently our SRO, some of you may know him, his name is Nick Wells, does a phenomenal job of engaging with our schools and really forging those close relationships with school administration that is so important to building trust with our school community and our community as a whole, and most importantly, our children. And so we believe very deeply in our SRO program and understand the importance of that relationship building that the position brings to our organization, the police department, in helping to keep our children and all of our students safe. And so I'll stop there, and I'm happy to answer questions as we go throughout the evening. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Jennifer Smith, who will come and share some norms for us tonight as we move through together.
Good evening, families and colleagues. Thank you for joining us tonight for this extremely and very important topic. We're going to have a discussion. We want to listen to each other. We want to hear each other. We want to solve problems together. We want to address your thoughts and your concerns, and we want to accomplish this in the most civil way possible. Talk a little bit about what is civility from a DEI perspective. Civility is claiming and caring for one's identity, needs, and beliefs without degrading someone else's in the process. Than just politeness, although politeness is a necessary first step. It is about disagreeing without being disrespectful, seeking common ground as a starting point for dialogue about differences, listening past one's preconceptions and teaching others to do the same. Civility takes the hard work of staying present even with those with whom we have deep-rooted and fierce disagreements. It is political in the sense that it is a necessary prerequisite for civic action, but it is political too in the sense that it is about negotiating interpersonal power such that everyone's voice is heard and nobody's ignored. And civility begins with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Just another quick recap of tonight's rundown. Our first 45 minutes will be some different conversations that will be addressed by the panel, and then the latter 45 minutes will be questions from the audience. And if there's time, we will also take questions from Zoom in the chat, or we will note them so we can address them in the future. At this time, our first conversation tonight that we would like to talk about is a follow-up from previous town halls. Mr. Quinn, could you share about the follow-up from the previous town hall meetings?
Sure, and I'm going to do it from over here so I don't spread my germs over there. There was a few issues that came up at previous meetings that I wanted to make sure to touch on. We've discussed them at a lot of recent board meetings, but in case you didn't hear them there, one was the safety lighting, which has been going in all over the district. There's still some fine tuning to do, but it's been going in on exterior dark spaces at all of our school sites. There's the safety glass that we've been putting in a lot of our schools, which will eventually be all of our schools. That started over the winter break and we've got through phase 1. And I believe they started phase 2 yesterday on that. So that's going in really well. And then the other thing that was requested was the remote entry, electronic entry at the front of all the school sites. And we have that going into, we've done the PRs and ordered all the equipment. I believe all the equipment is done and we're just getting ready to start that installation soon. So we just want to keep you updated that we do hear what is requested and process it as soon as we are able to. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Our first conversation tonight to address, and the panel will address this, we'll start with our security director, Mr. Ronchetti, is to talk about our security officers on campus and where we are in the process of partnering with our security officers. So Director Ronchetti, could you take that first topic?
Yeah, the first thing that we've been working on is giving more direct frontline decision-making and assignment authority to the assistant principals and the principals at each site. So this allows them, if they're out on campus and they see a need for security to be reassigned to a specific area or to address a specific situation going on, that they have the authority to do that, make those changes on their own. Do you want me to go through 2, 3, and 4, or?
I think that that's great. Let's see if we can open this up to our site admin if they would like to add anything.
And just to continue to follow up on that, the work with the security is an ongoing conversation. So with regular check-ins and two-way feedback. So as the students are responding to requests of the security, we support them in how to better do that, and we also get feedback on assignments. And so it's just an ongoing process that we're ensuring that we're having regular conversations with the security guards.
Hi, I'm speaking from the high school, but I wanted to let you guys know that we're all have radios that we carry during the day as well as our cell phones. And so that I'm able to get a hold of the director of security. I'm able to get a hold of the middle school, any of our site team, even the chief of police, should I need to be able to get a hold of anyone during the school day. So know that we're constantly in contact with one another, and we can reach out to all the security guards that are on campus at the same time.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we also might like, go ahead, please. Go ahead, Mrs. McBride.
Yeah, so I'm not an administrator, of course, but since we're here in the spirit of, I'm assuming, problem solving and finding ways to address, not just inform the community about what's going on. One of the things that members of the union have discussed is making sure that our security teams are properly trained. And I've heard firsthand from students, my own and other students, who say that when there is a situation on campus, sometimes the security officers don't really know how to respond. They may not be properly trained in de-escalation or conflict resolution. And many of them are coming from agencies where we don't have the necessary purview over the type of training that they receive. But in order to address the agency security, it would be better to have compensation that would allow us to recruit our own in-house security. So then we can take the leadership on making sure that they're properly trained and that our security teams share our district values.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we'd also like to hear Mr. Long and his take on this and what's been said.
Well, we kind of had Ms. McBride answer for all of us, but
Very
we
good.
agree more of our own security staff. And you're going to do that with better compensation and making sure that they're trained. We want to really move away from, agency security guards and back to our own staff with proper training.
Thank you. As Dr. Smith prepares the microphone, we just want to tell everyone who's on Zoom, we realize the Zoom has maxed out, but this is being recorded and will be posted. Thank you.
I just wanted to add, and we have our New Earth partnership here. This is Salam Conan, is that earlier in the year with the security force that was in place, we went over 4 training sessions on everything from de-escalation to culturally relatable attitudes and beliefs with our students. The challenge is that sometimes with outer agencies, third party, there's a swap of personnel. So we recognized a need for training earlier in the year, September, October, November. So there was a cadre, I think about 22 security personnel that were trained with New Earth, and I sat in on sessions. So we have a training model in place when we get a fixed and permanent training staff, because we recognize that it's extremely important with working with our young people in a respectful and compassionate and loving way to have those kinds of skills.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the panel we missed? All right. Our next topic to address is the notion of how we're assigning security officers zones. I'm wondering if Director Ronchetti would like to address that, and then we'll ask to hear from the site admins.
Yeah, I've worked with the site admins over the last 2 weeks to develop a new assignment protocol. And right now we have officers that are assigned by zone, and they're responsible solely for that zone and anything that happens within that zone. They are able to be moved to other zones if the need arises, or if there's a need by an admin to reassign them somewhere else, they have that luxury to do that. And on the topic of training, we start professional development training with the contract officers this week, and it will take place every Wednesday. And we'll be talking about, or we'll be training on interpersonal skills, de-escalation techniques, and just general security and what the expectations are as far as being present and being very mobile. And that goes into the next line item about being mobile. And they are patrolling their assigned zone individually, unless it's a zone that is a large zone and we have 2 officers that are assigned to that zone to assist with the increased number of students and the activity that takes place in that zone.
Thank you. I wonder if we could hear from the middle and high school site admin.
Yeah, so just to continue to follow up on that, response from Mr. Ronchetti is, yeah, we've been really evaluating the security assignments, and I'm just, this is a process we've had in previous years, but bringing it back up and make sure that the communication is ongoing, because there has been some turnover with the contracted security. So the process of when someone comes, someone goes, that they're getting their information, they're getting their assignments, that there's a clear understanding of where they will be and what their role would be for that day or that week, however long we're grateful to have them. So yeah, that's something that Mr. Ronchetti has been working with the site admin the last couple of weeks to ensure that we have clear communication with the security guards and with the site.
On the high school side, we've also been working with the Director Ronchetti. We have all zones assigned, so it's been pretty efficient. So we're able to address any concern immediately. In addition to that, I do want to add, this past summer, we installed several, I think we have over 200 new cameras on site that are constantly being monitored. So that just adds to the security on campus.
Thank you. Was there anything else from anyone on the panel that they would like to share on this topic? All right. We're going to move into the next topic, which is our periodic check-ins with our security. If we could start with Director Ronchetti and then site admin, if you could share as well.
Yeah, we've implemented regular daily and weekly check-ins with the site admins. Also regular briefings and debriefings with the contract personnel to discuss the trends that are going on campus and any hot issues that we need to address immediately.
And this is that's an important process in ensuring that our security are effective, because when we talk about students or just human behavior in nature, the way we may have it outlined, there may be adjustments that are needed, and that constant conversation helps support that. It allows us the opportunity to emphasize the priorities, or if there's some issues that we may feel are rising, we help to inform so that that we have the eyes in the right places, so that there's clear communication. So it's a very important process. That the communication is a very important process.
One thing that I also wanted to touch base on is that at the high school, we really take building relationships with our guards very seriously. So we've had several guard and admin meetings, and we've went over like the highs and lows and what's working and what's not, and establishing rapport with them so that they feel comfortable reporting to us and we're comfortable communicating to them, and really just ensuring that they're part of our CCHS family, because once they feel involved, they're more likely to commit and come back, and they become familiar with our students and with our staff, and really ensuring that seamless process between security and admin. So these check-ins have been very beneficial for us at the high school, and we look forward to keeping that process going.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Tran.
I'd like to take this opportunity to say that there was an incident with the security officer from the agencies, and I'm hoping that by the quick reaction of how we address that, we are also being mindful that we should not be depending on outside personnel. So Mr. Alakhan has been instructed to begin exploring all of the options to hire people for our own district. And this is now a priority one in our district in terms of let's just take security home, so that we can support directly the site in terms of the seasonal needs, as well as the ability to deploy our people quickly. I wanted to take the opportunity to share that we've also inviting a strong presence of our partners, our CCPD officers, to be at the front of the school and next to the middle school and the high school at the beginning of every day and the end of every day, until the end of the school year, and see how that would work out. And so far, the combination of redefining the role of our agency officers, and the combination of adding the presence of our police officers in front and of the school, I think we are able to say that over the last few, Dr. Baxter, would you share the numbers that we've had in terms of how much of an improvement we've had so far?
We've had a large improvement at the middle and high school in terms of incidents, and we've had a lot of extra staff from DEI, ed services, HR, business services, our superintendent's office. Everyone has been on sites to support the schools and make sure that students are at the center and are at our focus. And so everybody knows we're here to support them, because that's our purpose.
And if I wanted to take an opportunity to mention that Director Ronchetti has been in conversation with the company CEO, the group that is providing our officers, so that we're not just waiting at the time when we can bring in our own employees to take care of security. We continue to work with them to make sure that they are providing the support that we need. I want to take this opportunity to say that at the time when the crisis seemed to be accelerating, CCPD partners, the chief was there on a phone call away. Actually, it was a phone call, and then I called, and the next day the officers were there on the ground to support us. For that, I'm grateful. I want to acknowledge the support that the CCPD has been providing to our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Mrs. McBride has her mic up.
I would just like to encourage the board and the superintendent, I do see some board members in the audience, to revisit and approve the revised MOU with CCPD, because as you know, right now, the current MOU we have on file is over 20 years old with very archaic language that can actually do more harm than good if we have officers who show up on our campus and are not trained in responding to trauma or students who may be experiencing a crisis. And that will allow us to have a good working relationship with CCPD, which so far we've had, and I want to make sure that that continues, but we have to put the language that protects our students in writing, and it has to be approved by the board. We can't say we don't want to have a relationship with CCPD if they're the local agency that we're looking to respond to protect our students in the event of an emergency. But it's also important to use our policies and our MOUs to define when and how they respond and how they care for our students. And I'm trusting that the board will revisit that and approve it soon.
Thank you. I see Mr. Alarcon has his mic ready.
Thank you, Dr. Baxter. Just as a follow-up to Mr. Tran's comments, I wanted to say that human resources in the process of recruiting more broadly, because we see the dire need for our own internal security officers. In addition to that, we recently had an increase for security, but we're completely open to discussing that further in negotiations. And also really taking a closer look at the job description to be sure that the job description really matches what our needs are.
Thank you. Okay, I see Ms. Jagno.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you. That is one other point. I think it's really important that whatever we ask of our in-house security, that the job description is reasonable and something that is achievable and it not is too much for too few people. So I appreciate you pointing that out as well.
Go ahead, Mr. Tran.
I had the privilege to sit down with the chief a week ago, and we discussed the task whereby, I think it was in the month of November last year, when we were sitting down when the Board of Education had asked me to take the issue of the revision of the SRO MOU back to the board for an open discussion conversation with the community. And the chief and I are planning to take that item back onto the board in the near future. I need to sort that with our leaders, but the MOU for the SRO program will come back up to a decision, an action item at the board meeting. And I will keep the community in the loop so that on the time that is on the agenda, I would invite you to come out and share your perspectives with it. And I wish if the chief had any comment to make on that one.
Yeah, so I can answer that question. So an MOU stands for a Memorandum of Understanding. Essentially, it's just like a contract between the police department and the school district that describes the relationship and, you know, what the police department's responsible for, what the expectations of the school district are, and so forth. It kind of just spells all that out. Absolutely. Thank you for the comment. To answer Mr. Tran's, or to comment on Superintendent Tran's comment, we at the police department believe in a partnership between the Culver City Police Department and the school district. And quite frankly, in my 23 years at the police department, that's how it's always been. It's always been a partnership. And as the chief, I am committed to continuing that partnership because I think it's through that partnership and the relationships that we build that we are most effective in keeping our students, faculty, staff, and everybody safe. And that, of course, is our one of our primary goals as a police department is to keep our schools safe. And so we also understand that you know, not every issue that arises at the high school, middle school, or any of our schools requires an arrest, and that we often do respond to the school when there's an issue, and we work collaboratively with the administration to sort through the issues, to work through the problems, and oftentimes we end up landing on the side of, hey, the school's going to handle this one. Thank you for making us aware of that. This doesn't necessarily have to be a police issue. But for those more serious incidents that do occur on the school, maybe there's a fight and there's a serious injury, or somebody brought a weapon to school, something like that, and we do end up you know, taking enforcement action with the student. I want everybody to understand that that we believe deeply in diversion at the Culver City Police Department. And what that means is that that our youth will have an opportunity to be diverted away from the criminal justice system and into supportive programming versus, again, getting into that criminal justice system and then, having a record and things of that nature. So it's, more of a restorative justice model versus always ending up having to arrest folks and going down that path. So we're committed to that and we'll continue to be.
Thank you. That's a nice segue into our next conversation about our focus on pupils, which is why we all are here. So we're going to talk a bit with having the site admin address first, and then our colleagues from New Earth to talk about how we are focused on students.
Yeah, so the work to focus on students and also to build a safe culture on campus is the proactive work, I should say, is really the meat of ensuring that we have a safe school campus. So a lot of what we're doing and teaching students about the behavior expectations and how we respond to that behavior. So what the consequences would be, how would what the supports that we put in place for certain students that demonstrate that misbehavior, like all of that is an intentional work that needs to be clearly understood by the students. So just recently, and we do it throughout the year, but obviously, with the few weeks ago with the events that happened, we needed to get back and reteach students. So the administration here, we've been going to classrooms and speaking to kids about behavior and what we expect for kids at Culver City Middle School, and how fighting will not be tolerated on campus. It's never okay to respond with violence. Like that's never okay. So we wanted to just put it out there very clearly, and we want to teach kids the conflict resolution skills that they need, emotion management, or emotion regulation, or emotion management skills that they need. Like these are the proactive things that they need, how to problem solve. Like they need intentional instructions because we meet with the kid and we ask them a question like, hey, have you ever heard the word empathy? And sometimes they're like, I don't know what that means, right? And we're still dealing with a crop of students that were out of school for a couple years, and they usually get to us with some of these skills already, and we want to make sure that we're still teaching and supporting those kids. And I just want to bring it full circle that we have to be proactive. That's the meat of it, and also that the responsiveness and the consequences. That's a smaller portion, but we want to make sure we're consistent in that too, and that the students understand what the consequences are for their misbehavior, especially those serious things. And we're committed to being consistent and addressing issues. And students need to know how to fill out an incident report and who to talk to. So there's many measures. There's many. It's like multi-pronged approach, but we're continuing to do that to educate our students so that. That they can feel safe. That's important. They need to feel safe when they're at school.
Thank you. We're going to jump on that as well, because we also have a very proactive approach with our students. You would think that the high schoolers would have better emotional regulation, but that's not the case. So we have been also being proactive. We noticed a lot of different behaviors with our freshman students, and we had a freshman assembly where we got all the freshmen in the gym, and we really went over expectations from the high school. We talked everything from just consequences, how to be a digital citizen. One of the things that we're definitely noticing at the high school is that a lot of the conflict is starting on social media and then bleeding into the school, and then we have to address it on that end as well. We have a lot of supports and resources that we provide for our students in a proactive measure. So if we notice that there is some conflict, we do have restorative circles. Students are requesting those restorative circles because they know that they do help and it does calm the waters. But in the event that students don't make the right choice, we have our other means of corrections contract that we have students go through, and that's just a part of the progressive discipline that we have to provide here at the high school. There's like, what else? There's a lot that we do. Every situation that happens, we have to look at that with different eyes. We've been doing this a while, and we still have never seen the same situation twice. So something that, seems very clear cut and dry, it's not. We have to do a full investigation. We go through all those steps. And then at the end, that's when we decide on, what that looks like per ed code, what the consequences will be. And, we go from there. A lot of things that we try to, when we're talking to the students, sometimes what you think should be happening is not going to happen because we can't do that legally. So what are the things that we can put in place so that when you do, if there was a consequence where you had to be off campus, so when you come back on campus, how are we going to support you in that? And so we discussed that. There's a reentry meeting that happens with parents and those that are involved. And we talk about what the resources are for you as you come back to campus and what are the processes that we're going to go through. Are you going to go to New Earth? Are you going to meet with one of our intervention counselors? And that also depends on what led up to this incident. So there's a lot of processes that we go through. It's never just one-sided, and it's never just like this is what it is. It's always some intricate, deep-rooted things that we have to take into consideration also, because as the district has shared, we're looking at the whole child. And our job is not to just get rid of kids and just throw them out. Our job is to make sure that we can correct the behaviors so that they can still function in our society.
I just want to add that we don't have bad students. We have students who've made bad choices. So we really want to put a lot of emphasis on that and ensuring that our students realize why that was a bad choice and what they could have done differently. And because eventually they leave high school and we need them to take these problem-solving skills with them into the real world. So that's something that we've been really focusing on as a team as well. Whenever we do talk to our students or we're investigating or there are consequences that are dealt, we want to ensure that our students know that it was a mistake that they made, but how do we learn from that mistake and how do we move on from that mistake as well?
Thank you. May we hear from New Earth, Ms. Solomon?
Yes, hi. Thank you. I just want to kind of echo some of what the admin's been sharing. We've been working really closely with the admins in addressing some of the issues. New Earth is really there to offer support services, especially in that social emotional learning space. And we do understand that the behavior is only a symptom of underlying issues, and addressing those underlying issues will create a safer community. And so we've been working with the high school and the middle school to really address, like, well, what do they really need? And listening to the students as well as they're sharing what's going on for them. And I think someone mentioned the social media aspect, right? That is a real contributor to what's going on in school. Things happen after hours, things happen off campus, and then they bring it with them. And oftentimes they don't understand fully the consequences because they're, as you know, like keyboard warriors with a lot to say on, on the social media. But then when they are confronted with the consequences of real life, they really need that time to learn and reflect and really address what's underlying that. And, we're happy to be at both campuses and supporting the middle school and the high school through programming, as well as case management therapy for those who need it, and continuously working with the administration there.
I would just like to reiterate, I've had the pleasure of supporting my high school colleagues really intensely the last couple of weeks and participating in what we call the reentry or re-engagement meetings with students who are returning from suspension, from making a bad decision, and really getting, and with New Earth and site admin and parents are key members of that reentry meeting to kind of understand, get to the root cause, and figure out what is the best next step for these young people who've made bad decisions. I know that we hear from the community, what is happening. There's through federal and state laws, we cannot share what happens to another person's kid. And I think the roles were reversed. You wouldn't want us telling about your kid. So there's protocols. We're gonna have an in-depth presentation at the board meeting the other night because we just want to make sure our families and community are aware and then can have grace and compassion and empathy and lock arms with us as we meet our students' needs. This is a national challenge. When our children came out of the pandemic, they came out with greater needs that we have to address. We cannot throw them away. When they get suspended, if it wasn't for a certain offense, they come back. They come back through a reentry meeting. We establish what the needs are. We monitor, we watch, we meet the needs. We love on them to come back because they're still our students. And we continue to support them. We want those critical thinking skills and decision-making skills that they'll take out Culver City Unified into life.
Thank you. Our next and our last, sorry, go ahead. Mr. Long.
I just wanted to say something just real quickly. I think we have a really great counseling staff in CCUSD, and I'm very proud to represent the 20 counselors in this district. We need to work more with our own counselors, and we need to have seamless transitions between our counselors and outside groups. And eventually we need to get to the point with security where we have our counselors doing this work. Okay, we need to get people off of the A through Z caseloads, specifically working with our students that are at need. We desperately need that. These counselors are able to make these connections with a lot of our students. They need to be trained, they need to be trauma informed, but I would like us to see a major investment in our school counselors here in CCUSD.
Thank you. Our next topic of conversation tonight, I'm just looking to make sure I didn't miss anyone, is to talk about our board policies. This will be our last topic before we begin to address public questions. So I want to talk about board policies, and I would like for the district administrators to address where we are with supporting our safety measures with board policy. And after that, we'll invite Mr. Levinson to talk about our comprehensive school safety plan.
I'm sorry, could we just add something important onto the last thing that we shared is that we do have wonderful counselors here at our school. I work closely with them. They do not do discipline, they do the support. So they go ahead and they provide the support for our students. And some other things I just wanted to share is that we do have restorative justice here. We implement it here at our school. I've made a mistake in my past. I'm sure everyone in this room has. And so what we try to do is we try to teach our students through those mistakes how they could have dealt with it differently so it would have had a more positive outcome. I do want to let you know that we implement restorative justice here at our school, but restorative justice does not mean no consequences. When a situation happens, we do assign consequences as needed. And I want to let you know that at the high school, we've suspended 49 students for various reasons, not just fighting, but other reasons on campus. And so there have been suspensions through the school year. And I know that has happened also at the middle school. So FERPA, I don't know that I can go ahead and comment on that, but I do want to let you know that suspensions and expulsions are something that are implemented in our district.
Can I, So I would like to address a couple things. First, to Dr. Tarvid's point, with all due respect, we do speak about having restorative practices, but I will tell you personally, as a noon duty supervisor, my only job is supervision, social, emotional, intervention and conflict, all of those things. I have never received restorative justice training. We were told that it was a framework we were moving towards. I support it wholeheartedly, but I have never been trained in true restorative justice. And so I would like to ask the district to really commit to this fully, not just in name, but in practice, and to train all of us on restorative justice. Because to the point made in the audience, I understand your frustration, but I will say this. These are children, they are going out into the world. We are trying to build a better society, whether they come out of our school district or another. Expulsions may be satisfying in the moment, but we're not solving a problem, we're just moving it. So we really, really need to work hard to help our children become the people that we want to be in a society with, not just push them out of the way. Thank you.
I'd also like to piggyback on that point. Okay. I agree that I understand that counselors don't respond to disciplinary issues. And we did go into a partnership with New Earth as a reaction to issues we were seeing last year. It was a reactionary measure that we took to address the conflict that was escalating on our campuses. What I've not seen in this district in a very long time is a proactive approach to addressing the trauma and the issues that our students are facing. And that's the point that I think Mr. Long was making about hiring more counselors, because counselors can be a huge part of that proactive approach so that it doesn't get to the point where we need to bring in reinforcement for the conflict. And until we have at least a ratio of 1 to 200 on our high school campus and our middle school for counselors, we're going to continue to see those challenges, because it's a heavy lift for our already overwhelmed counselors. And knowing that we only have 2 family centers in our elementary schools, when we have 5 elementary schools, and our family centers are staffed with marriage and family therapists who I know for a fact, firsthand, they help our children deal with the everyday issues that they show up with on campus in our elementary schools when they're overwhelmed, when they have anxiety, when they're experiencing depressive symptoms, and they know our students because they're there every single day. Shout out to Miss Christie at El Rincon. We need to invest more money into having marriage and family therapists, family centers on all of our campuses, making sure that we have our tier 1 and tier 2 supports in place so that it doesn't get to the level of escalation where we are bringing in, we're relying on our MOU with CCPD, or we're having to contract out to people who, for all the good you do, don't really know our students the way we know our students.
So I'm hearing so far is that there are more conversation regarding the consequences throughout. And I'm inviting our members of the audience to come to tomorrow board meeting. There is a presentation on all the consequences. We are presenting all of those options to the Board of Education tomorrow. So allow me to address also we do bring in quite a lot of services and program, but I would agree that we did not take full opportunity to implement all of our services to the highest degree of fidelity. So that's something we need to address as well. And then existing programs sometime would be at certain site, but not all. So that is part of our preventive measure also. All of that is long-term investments, and it is now on the district priority list. So we're moving forward. We've had challenges in the past. And one of the challenges I just want to take the next few minutes to address is also tomorrow night is the last night for the public hearing on the comprehensive school safety plan, which is basically the structural agreement among parents and teachers and principal to design school-specific measures and agreement and protocol to protect the safety of our students and staff. And if I may bring that important topic to the front, and I'm inviting Mr. Ron Livingston to speak to that to us.
Yes, again, my name is Ron Levinson, and I'm here as a parent. I'm not affiliated with the district in any way, shape, or form. I am, as I said before, vice chair of our Farragut Elementary Site Council, with our chairperson being our principal, Katie Masterson. And we have at least one other member of our site council and our safety committee. I see Melissa out there, who was also very instrumental in the review of this. Basically, one of the responsibilities of our site council and all the other 6 site councils, each school has one, including the middle school and high school, is to review and approve the CSSP, the safety plan that the superintendent was just referring to. And quite frankly and candidly, when it was presented to our site council, I read it and made the very strong recommendation that we not approve it. It was nowhere near the content that I felt was necessary to protect our children. What they had done was taken a 1,200-page document that had been prepared, I believe, by Mr. Ronchetti years ago. That was a phenomenal document. It had really every possible concern addressed, and it was compacted to a document that was about 150 pages, which the intent actually was very good. It was to make it more accessible, more readable, something that the parents could refer to in a more useful way than a 1,200-page document. So the intention was there. It just, in my opinion, didn't come across to the extent that we needed to. There was a I will talk faster. Okay. Anyway, so basically, what we did was went through and identified what was missing in the plan. Just to give you some ideas of the types of things that were reinserted, we've got a problem across the country with fentanyl, so we made Narcan mandatory for all the schools. We put AEDs, defibrillators, mandatory. Excessive heat exposure on the athletic fields. We've got athletes that are dropping nationally with heart problems. We put that back in. Medical triage guides. At Farragut, our emergency supplies, the batteries were corroded. We had bandages that were expired. So we inserted protocols for emergency supplies monitoring, making sure they're current. And most important, they had an active shooter philosophy that was called run, hide, and fight. This is appropriate for middle school and high school. It is not appropriate for grade schools. So we actually made work to make a policy change on this that is now the new policy for all the elementary schools. This is a handful of over 100 changes. There were literally 100 changes. And briefly, I will. Okay. 99% of the changes were made. Well, I'm assuming that they will extend that.
Let's remember our civility policy as we proceed.
I'm one of you. I'm a parent. I'm a parent, and I'll finish what I was saying, which is basically well, I'm sorry that you don't care, but every one of the changes, with the exception of the memo of understanding, was made. And this was done with the cooperation of Chief Sims, who his first day on the job stopped the meetings to return calls and develop these new policies. So that's about it. All I want to do is express my thanks to the department and Captain Pete Hernandez, who was very, very valuable in the input of what we now consider to be an effective safety plan. That's it.
I will ask that we add 8 extra minutes to the end so that you have the 45 minutes for Q&A. To the extent possible, I had asked our participants to be here, but if they could not be here, we do the best to take all of your questions. But let's just see how far we get with 8 additional minutes to the end.
We'll add a few minutes. We want to make sure that we honor our administrators' time as they have a busy day first thing in the morning. So if you would like to come up and pose a question, what we're going to do is we will set a timer for 2 minutes. The timer will go off, and we're hoping you can focus your 2 minutes on a question that the panel could address. So if you could just think about a question that the panel may address. So I see Mr. Milkey's there first. So Mr. Milkey, if you'd like to come forward, I'll start the timer for the 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. David Melke. I'm a resident of Culver City. Both of my kids graduated from Culver City High School. I've been teaching here in Culver City since 1979. And I've got a suggestion. It's not a question, it's a suggestion. When I was first hired, I was hired at the district's continuation high school. Continuation high schools exist to give extra support for students who need extra support. I've only got 2 minutes. At the same time, we had, because continuation high schools, you needed to be 16 years old, we had a middle school opportunity program. So middle school students who needed extra support were able to get it. And then we also, for many years, had a community day school. Community day school, middle school students, high school students, and expelled students, who we still are responsible for their education, were taught at the community day school. So we went from 3 alternative programs to 0. And we could have anticipated that we were going to need these programs in the lee of a pandemic where kids lost 2 years of socialization and 2 years of education. And so what needs to happen, in my opinion, is we need to reopen right away. And I spoke to the board months ago about reopening Culver Park. And as far as I know, it's still not been agendized. And if we're going to open it in the fall, we need to staff it now. And so why the district is dragging its feet, I do not know. And so let's do that now. And it helps the kids who need the support, and it helps the other kids who are having their experience disrupted by kids who need extra support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melfi. Okay. So in receiving that comment, could you please say your first and last name into the microphone, and we'll start your 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Faith Rodriguez. Thank you for having me. But do you know how frustrating it is to be here saying this right now? Why did we have to wait for things to get so out of control to say something, to do something, to even have this meeting in the first place? Why did we have to wait for students to feel unsafe before you decided to take action? And right now, it's nice, all the ideas you're suggesting, but I haven't really seen any action. Talk is nice, but there's no action to back up the words. You're upset about the fake gun that incident that happened in January that looked real, but you dismissed the incident last year that took place in March of a student who had brought a real loaded firearm to school in March, and you still haven't addressed that or even informed the community about it. What action did you take when that happened? Silence is still taking sides, and it makes me sick that you as members, as representatives, as staff, waited until the lives of students were truly in danger until you decided to take action. The lack of action on the community side as well is disappointing because you guys cry for police presence, but you guys were the same ones yelling to get them off campus in the first place. Los Angeles Daily News quoted Kelly Kent stating, "The crisis is real, but Kelly, this crisis has been real for the last 2 years. And you didn't do anything about it. You guys have failed as members. You have failed to the community. You act like these fights haven't been occurring since last year, and then you haven't had ample time to address the community, actually come up with solutions to these problems." Los Angeles Daily News also quoted CCUSD Board President Paula Amazola stating, "Please note that our students' safety is our top priority," which is a lie, because if it was truly your priority, you would have addressed this back in March of 2022. You knew exactly what was happening on campus and you turned a blind eye, and now it's coming to bite you in the butt. So thank you.
If you could please state your first and last name. Thank you.
Melissa Stuckey. Mr. Tran, you and the school board discriminated against my CCHS high schooler 18 months ago. Since then, I, alongside many others, have been speaking up against this and safety issues, recommending more counselors, parental involvement at the schools, just parents coming and volunteering. Nothing has changed since then. Why should we believe you tonight or any other night that something's going to change? 18 months is a long time. That's my first question. Why should we believe you tonight? Second, why is Culver Park, a great alternative resource for students, continuously swept under the rug while thousands of dollars are being spent on a Brookwood contract for housing?
There have been a group of us speaking up about this violence for over a year. It took you until there was a parent protest out front and news to actually do something about this. It's appalling that you would have said nothing. Most of these parents don't know that there was a 30-student fight in May of last year on the high school campus. Yes, there was. Don't shake your head, because I know there was. There were parents and students and teachers talking about it. There was also a gun on campus. Last semester, I'm going to read this from Zoom because they're not able to speak. This parent wanted to know, I would like to discuss a sexual assault on campus. Please, it was my child. How do I raise my hand to be heard? Heard. Have you really heard us yet? I don't think so, but you will.
Could you please state your first and last name?
Hi, my name is Anitra Smith. I'm the parent of a sixth grader at CCMS. I'm also a Culver City alumni from class of 2003. First, I just want to say, thank you all for being here. This includes both the board and the community. We definitely appreciate it. But I've heard you guys speak a lot about board policies, moving away from the contracted security companies, which I'm very much in support of, as well as, handling school conflicts. But what I haven't heard is what proactive or even reactive steps that you guys are going to take to be more transparent about the communication to the parents, as well as the community about the incidents that are occurring on the campus. Unfortunately, my daughter was one of the children at CCMS who was racially targeted by a security guard on February the 2nd, who told her, as well as other students, that he hates Black people, that they did not belong at that school, they should kill themselves and or die. I do understand that security guard was removed from the campus, but what disturbs me the most is that the administration failed to be more transparent about this incident to the parents. We received a very vague email with not much information at all. You all left it up to our children to come home and tell us about the trauma that they had just experienced at the school. Till this day, you guys still haven't truly addressed it with us, the community, the parents, or anyone. You talked to us behind closed doors. You tried to sweep it under the rug, and I do have an issue with that. So my question to you guys is, what are you going to do to make sure that things are being more communicated to us as parents of what's going on? Because there are some children who won't speak up, some children who can't speak up. So they leave it for us to speak up for them, but we can't speak up for them if we don't know what's going on. We should have known what went on February the 2nd and any other day that incidents took place on the campus.
Can you please state your first and last name?
My name is,
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm hearing, the question is for the middle school, and the question is go ahead for Mr. Hawley. Go ahead.
Yes, yes, it's for the middle school. Thank you for the response. And yes, we definitely see a dire need to continue to address the students that experience the event that happened on campus with the contracted security guard. It's a much bigger event, right, at the kids' young age. So we are just meeting with our counselors just earlier today, and it came up today. We need to make sure that we support them. We had a plan where immediately we had New Earth meet with the students, all the sixth grade class, but we're still seeing some lingering things we want to address it. So, that initial support wasn't enough. So and obviously there's still need. So we'll make sure that we follow up and address that.
It's been weeks that these kids have been sitting on this, and no one has reached out to my child about anything. She filed an incident report. The only response I got was, hey, we got your incident report. That's it. I've emailed you multiple times. I still haven't gotten a response from you or Trent. I haven't gotten a response from any of you all. But no surprise, right?
Yeah, for that, we apologize, and we'll make sure that we'll do better.
Okay. If you could please state your first and last name.
my name is Heather Davis, and I have a 7th grader at CCMS and an 11th grader at the high school. Thank you all for being here. I think I'm a little disappointed tonight because I was really hoping for some action plan to be presented. And I think everyone agrees we need to hire our own security, and talking about reviewing the job description and finding the funding and all of that. Like, what are the actionable steps? Do we have a deadline for when there's going to be a job description created, or what is the goal that we're like a date that we're going to try to aim towards? The whole community has stated all of our concerns. Everyone has apologized for the state we're in, but what is the solution? We can keep talking, we can keep apologizing, but what are the action steps that we're going to take? In regards to communication, I would like to know how we're communicating with parents when a student files an incident report. Both the CCMS Student Parent Handbook and the high school Student Parent Handbook say we have a zero tolerance policy for bullying. What does that mean? There's nothing else there. When a student files an incident report that they've experienced bullying, is the parent called of the student who's doing the bullying? Is the parent called of the student who's being bullied? Because if they're not every kid goes home and talks to their parents. So I just feel like there needs to be some more communication that way. The students who were involved with the security officer, half of those parents were not called. My student was involved in an incident. I wasn't called. So I just think we need to revisit our student parent handbooks if that's what we're going by. There's a technology thing about filming and posting on social media, zero tolerance policy. Again, what does that mean when students are filming and posting fights?
Thank you. So we'd like to have a chance to address part one of your question, which was about how will we be alerted about job postings, and the second part, which is about bullying. So I'd like to ask Mr. Alarcon to address first, and then Dr. Smith.
So the job posting is ongoing, and we're actually going to be negotiating with ACE next week. So we'll add that to the agenda just to make sure we focus on the area of security officers.
Thank you, Mr.
Next week. I'm sorry, when do we want to have the what? We currently have job postings. As I mentioned earlier, we're expanding our recruitment, looking for other ways to recruit. I can't give you a date on the spot, but we're meeting with ACE and we'll just do it as soon as possible.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Smith, could you please address the bullying protocols?
Well, first of all, there's no zero tolerance anything in California. What we do is a proactive, well, it just is. I'm sorry, families. It just is. We have to work on and address what the symptoms and the children need directly. I just wrote a note to myself to go back and look at specifically the handbooks, but we're bringing to the board on the March 14th meeting is a revised electronics policy and taking a look at how students are using Wi-Fi. Now, we're not trying to suppress and repress students' access to their phones. We want to address those who are misusing them to tape fights and post them on social media. So our team is actively going to bring something to the board on the 14th to revise. Like I said, not for regular use. We're not trying to take phones away from students. They need them. But for those who misuse them, and I would just ask parents gently, kindly, and with love, is that if you would, and it may not be your children, but it might be the friends of your children, just kind of encourage that, because there is policy. We're going to have to take a really good look at that, because a lot of it incites, my high school colleagues can tell you, things start, in social media and on the cell phones. Thank you.
Can
you,
I just
Dr.
encourage
Smith.
you to review both student parent handbooks, because zero tolerance policy is mentioned multiple times in both of them.
Yes.
I've spoken to two administrators who have referred those back to me.
Yes.
And there's a very clear policy on technology use and on bullying. And
Yes.
both of them say zero tolerance.
Yes. I wrote a note to follow that up.
Thank you. Could you please state your first and last name for us?
Yes, good evening, Monique Blay. I have a child at Linwood Howe, and I have a special needs child next door at the middle school. Thank you all for being here, stage and audience. What training is implemented for students with disabilities when it pertains to safety measures? Now, nobody on this board has spoken about the invisible and the voiceless. I just want to state that. How are we discouraging these students to not record these fights? Like Heather said, there's a zero tolerance policy. I spent last weekend combing through some disturbing footage on the internet when it pertains to these fights, CCH_ squabbles with a Z, with an S. I saw girls in the locker room innocently changing clothes, preparing for PE or going back to the next class, but meanwhile, thing one and thing two are fighting, recording it, and some innocent child's ass cheeks, excuse my language, butt talks on the internet forever, and they're unaware. A couple of them were special needs. So again, for the voiceless, I speak. Another question, what are we doing about drugs consequences? Most of us can say no to drugs. A child who has special needs cannot turn down candy, especially when they have, drawn to it. Again, for the voiceless, no one's speaking about them, so here I am. I can give you 10 names plus of students who have IEPs, half of which are nonverbal, who have been physically assaulted. Their parents have said something to the staff of both schools, and nothing's been done. They tell the students and the parents, we've handled it, but the bullying continues and ensues. I don't know if we're waiting for a body to drop on campus, but I won't be the one who that happens to, okay? I know for a fact a child with autism was bullied, recorded. I can send it to each and every one of you who need it. And the pages of all the fights where the drugs are being recorded, being made in class and passed around on campus. And I can also show you the footage of a child with an IEP who's special needs, who was physically assaulted, recorded, and she almost committed suicide on y'all campus. So again, for the voiceless I speak, I need answers.
I believe that I appreciate you not mentioning student names. Thank you for that. So we will have somebody from the middle school team reach out to you.
Why can't I have answers now? Hold on. My daughter was physically assaulted. I said this at the last school board meeting. I promised myself I would come in here and control my passion and my fight for my daughter who's voiceless. So I want answers tonight because hold on. Because I can assure you, I have not been gotten back to this day from incidents that happened in 2014. I will not wait.
Mr. Hawley will be reaching out and address that with you tonight privately. I can't take the minute where we can address the whole district-wide concern, but he will reach out to you. Please. Every student is responsible. Every staff is responsible for the safety of the students. And we heard your concern. I've just instructed principal to follow up with you. He will. Okay.
I appreciate your concern. There are so many parents with special needs kids who physically and mentally can't be here because their children require so much of their time, and two-parent households with help. So it's not just me. Again, I can't say this enough. I'm speaking for the voices, for the helpless, for one of the most underserved and protected people in this community who are also being affected by these atrocities. And sadly, this has come to a culmination for the school and the community in the last 2 years. Unfortunately, students with disabilities have been disenfranchised for many years.
You have all of our assistant principal and principal of the middle and high school here, and allow our people to reach out and follow up on their own time, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please state your first and last name?
Well, my name is Robert, but I'm not going to say my last name because I promised my daughter. But I was here the day before the protest in the office when a major fight broke out and landed up in the office. And the staff was crying and didn't know what to do. And I said, don't you guys have a plan? We can't do anything because the superintendent told us not to do anything. I think it starts at the top. I don't know if you're doing your job, but these fights have been happening for a while now. So stop the bullshit. Help our kids, all right? That's all I got. Because if nothing happens, you guys are just full of it.
Could you please state your name?
I'm just gonna go by Lisa. So first of all, I feel floored as well that I have had to learn about these fights online. I'm actually a restorative justice trainer in Mid-City and South Central organizations and schools. So I've never really had to worry, I thought, about this out here, but this is what's happening. And there's so much to say, and a lot of things can be true at the same time. I stand with all the parents. One of the first things that I did when I had my kid come to CC High School is check the parental rights handbook online. It was not there. I don't know if it's there now, but that was last year. My kid has been in the system since OCD, basically preschool. So it's now 17 years. He's been there now he's in 10th grade. And one of the things that I had said to the vice principal, thankfully, Vice Principal Rodriguez did address some of this, but it's taken about a year, is the picture taking. The picture taking is a phenomenon that's been happening for a while. And it's not just the students, it's parents. I don't know what, and I think some of it is racially motivated, okay? And I think there's a lot of racial profiling that is going on. And I'm addressing this as not just a school, a parent of a school student, but someone that's in the school community, okay? There is also white supremacist tendencies in the community. There's a history of that on Overland and Jefferson at the Denny's. I've been followed by white men with my kid into the Denny's and into the Ralph's after school and to home. I've begun to recognize some of the women. So I want to actually applaud some of the white allies that have talked to me about this and calm me down, but it has been so uncomfortable, okay, that I don't know what's going on. I think the racial tension, obviously is a reflection of the things that are going on nationally. I want to know what the chief is doing, the police chief is doing about white supremacy within the entire system. And the second thing is definitely a double down on making sure that our kids do not get put into the school to prison pipeline. Okay, that needs to happen. And we need to commit to transformative justice policies, not just restorative justice, transformative justice, which is about completely transforming the system. So are you open to that?
Thank you.
Is what I want to know tonight.
Okay, so let's address your three-part question.
One last thing.
The timer's gone off.
My
so
kid
let's
is doing great.
the
He's
three-part question.
acing everything. So I'm speaking for all the kids and parents that don't have a voice. Okay, so that's all.
Okay, so I heard the first part of your question was for Chief Sims and talking about the community at a whole. Is that something that
Well, thank you for the question. And certainly we are committed to working with our school community and members of our community to do everything that we can to keep not only folks here within our school system, but everyone in our community safe and give everyone a feeling of safety when it comes to white supremacy or anything else. I would encourage you, the next time you feel unsafe or you're being followed, to please give us a call and we will respond immediately and take the appropriate action. So thank you.
The next part of the question was about, well, the third part of the question was about transformative behavior practices. I don't know if somebody from the panel, perhaps New Earth or DEI or somebody would like to address that part of the question or to talk about our processes.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this is really deep. I'm listening, and I want to say that New Earth, at least for us, we are trauma informed. We believe in transformative justice and all that it takes. And as a person of color myself, I know exactly how you feel, and I want to say I hear you.
I would say that transformative culture, it begins with an understanding and listening to our students because they have a lot to say. addressing those needs. It's how you transform a culture, is on the ground listening, addressing, supporting, locking arms with parents, community, unions, admin. It'll take all of us. Culver still was a sundown town at one point. We're seeing the residual. Like I said, I just got to the city in June. I'm saying to the speaker who talked about white supremacy, there's evidence of that at all different places. We have to address that as a community. And face forward, it's about education. It's about education. And we're committed to that.
Thank you. If you could please state your first and last name.
Sure. My name is Tiffany Niles Queensborough, and I have a child at the middle school and 2 children at elementary school. And like everyone has shared, thank you so much for everybody's presence here, on both sides. To be honest, I was also expecting to have more of a targeted approach and solution-oriented meeting today. So I'm a little bit disappointed. And so I think that I'd like to enable more of that kind of conversation. So frankly speaking, the first thing I would like to say is that the security team that I see here is not effective. And it's like having a renovation versus having a new home. Sometimes renovations are harder than having a new home. So I went to the Black Expo the other day, and I'll tell you that there was a company there that I'm going to share that I think that you all should really consider looking into, that already have all of the framework that you're looking for. I don't think that you should waste time actually using the existing company that you have. And I'm happy to share those details. I actually have that name right here if anyone would like to take notes. The company is Los Angeles Executive Security Group, LAESG. Their phone number is 323-903-5059. I would highly suggest that you do that. Secondly, when it comes to the communication plan, I have seen communication, I've received phone calls, I thank you for that. But as I've shared with Mr. Kwok Tran, I think that you all need to have a balanced scorecard. Everybody here has identified major categories of areas that need to be dealt with. And I see conversations in silos, I see solutions in silos, but I don't see a comprehensive plan. I was expecting to see an actual board or a screen where different parent groups can come together, because there are parent groups that are actually getting together outside of this forum and trying to solve issues. And I do not see that level of collaboration. I am looking for your team to get together with our team, because a lot of you have kids in the system, and let us get together. I know that alarm, and I usually respect that alarm, but please let me finish. I'm looking for solutions. I also would like to see some metrics. When COVID came, there were major metrics that were published. I'm looking for, last week we had 10 fights, we restored 4 children, and we are all together trying to make sure that these children stay in the system. That's the information I'm looking for. We are looking for these various support systems. We're looking for these teachers. I have shared with some of your staff that I'm happy to be part of the recruitment strategy. I've actually reached out to some math teachers. This is serious business. There are people in this community who are psychologists. They are as we had the previous person here, they could actually work here and be invested. Please list all of the gaps that you have and help us to help you do the work. As it relates to policies, I'm in corporate. Policies stay up here. You all need a communication strategist. It is very vital right now, because the information is not transcending down to the parents. It is not transcending down to the children. My own children say when they come home that, oh, they had somebody come in and talk to us again. It's not going to make a difference. So there is something wrong with the dissemination of information down to the children in school. You need to have people having direct conversation with the children, asking, do you feel that this is making an impact on your life? And having assessments. So I'm looking for a scorecard, and I'm looking for an assessment. I am looking for metrics. I am looking for reports of outcomes, and I'm looking for them yesterday, because I'm telling you guys, you have respectfully lost the faith of this community. And I believe that you have the tools, but you need to come together and like literally sit in a room with us and let us help that solution. So thank you very much.
Could you please state your first and last name?
Yes, hello, my name is JD. And I think we've all heard about the problems here today, but I think we really need to talk about how to fix them. One of the first things I'd like to talk about is weekly anonymized violence reports. This is a very, very easy thing for you to provide this community with. And I'd love to see these reports to also have anonymized consequences attached. Now, I know whenever this topic comes up, somebody will bring up this privacy law or privacy statute, but I can guarantee you the spirit of that law is not to prevent transparency for the community. So when can we expect this? That's a question I'd like to have answered. When can we expect a violent incident report with anonymized consequences attached?
Sorry, you brought up purpose. I have read all 12,000 words of that law. It's pretty dense. And no, it does not prohibit you from sharing anonymized data like the gentleman over here is asking.
So we would like an answer to that question, please.
Thank you for the question. If I could just rephrase it this way. We have been collecting information from the school site, and there are certain cases that as we're moving through, we can't share the consequences and so on and so forth because of the legal protection, but we will share all of that information up front in I think the board had asked for an ongoing item on the agenda to report every 2 weeks in terms of what is happening in terms of the incidents and altercation of the school. To the extent possible, we can share to the public. We will. All of our staff at the school site leaders, all of our school site leaders have been mindful of creating that database, and we are sharing that in the confidentiality of that at this point. But the board is expecting every 2 weeks when we meet in a regular board meeting, an incident or some kind of an information that is not violating the privacy law of the state. We will share that with the community the best we can. Tomorrow night is the conversation on what are the consequences, what are the protocol for accountabilities and behaviors program. And I think that will be that's an information item tomorrow. So please come and address that. A lot of the question tonight, I think, can be addressed by the consequences and what are we obliged to do by law, as well as some of the flexibility we have at the school site as well.
Okay, well, thank you. And we'll be looking forward to receiving that information. I have a couple more things to say. I understand that discipline and consequences are difficult, but just remember, if you take that kindness and empathy too far, you do not pay the price. It's the kids that do. We also demand a detailed review of all expenditures. Measure K, so much money. Where's it going? You know, it sounds to me like it's going to training for contract security from Aegis that walks right out the door. That's an embarrassment. I can't believe we're spending taxpayer dollars on contract security that is terrible, that then takes that training and walks right out the door with it. We need to immediately take steps to hire full-time district staff, and any money spent on training should go to that staff. It's just a crime that you're making these decisions to train these ill-equipped people who couldn't even get a job at the Culver City Police Department and then let them walk out the door with that training. It is a joke, and I can't believe that that was a policy to begin with. And so I would say you take that money, you hire better security, full-time security. You take that money, you improve the facilities. How can you have a conversation with a child about how much you care about them when the ceiling tiles are falling out of the roof? It is a joke. Spend the money where we can see it. Do not spend the money on these external for-profit organizations that are leeching off of these taxpayer dollars. Get more teachers. Like one of the things you're talking about is like, oh yeah, we're temporarily improving the fight situation because we have more adults on campus. Well, you know what? If you had more teachers and you didn't have 40 students in a class, you'd have more adult per kid ratio anyway. And lastly, you must have the conversation about reopening Culver Park High. So I leave you with that. When can we expect that conversation to be held again? Is that going to be at the next school board meeting? And will you give us an update on a plan to reopen those facilities?
If I could just address the Culver Park situation as well. The board is expecting a recommendation from us, and I will have to work with our board president to agenda that item, not tomorrow, but sometime in the near future. It is an urgent item. I will put that to the board, a plan to restore the services, if not the entire school program for Culver Park. And allow me to explain this. The items on the agenda has been posted Friday and it is not on that agenda. So we're not allowed to just simply add it at this moment. So can I have the next question, please? I really can't. If you need some additional information, just stay afterward and I can explain the legality of a board agenda. It is just not something that we can just simply add
we
to.
look forward to that being on the agenda soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to call everyone's attention before the next speaker speaks. This is going to be the next speaker of the night. We're upon 8:03, which we've gone our 8 minutes over, and we need to honor the administrators, staff, and colleagues that are on the stage so that they are able to get home for dinner as well as all of you. So if you could go ahead and state your name for all of us, then we'll start your time. Go ahead.
My name is Shay Andrioni, and I know many of you on the stage, and I've reached out many times to discuss ways that I can work together with you to help this problem. Some of you I have heard back from, some of you I have not, some of you have offered help. I want to discuss two things. Transparency is a really big issue. Tran, I have reached out to you very directly, very clearly, early months ago, saying, we need help and we want to help you and I want to work together with you. And then I heard nothing. And this problem built and built and built. And here we are after standing out on the street in the rain this Friday. After a week ago, you said you were sorry that you didn't come together with us and talk to the parents first and work together. You walked right by us again without acknowledging us a second time. I'm trying to work together with you. So when you say to a parent who's asked, can we have the facts? You said, absolutely, I promise. And then a week goes by. But I want to acknowledge, just like I do with my children when I'm parenting them, what they do well first. Thank you. The facts are that in the last 2 weeks, things have changed. There have been changes. And those changes are great. And we hope that they stick. But what I am afraid of is that these temporary things, like you bringing in more bodies from the board and not from the board, from the district, like those are to please us people standing out there and begging and screaming, and that in a couple of weeks, those go away. I want to make sure that I am still telling you I am here to help and I want to get involved. Please take advantage of what Tiffany said, what JD said, what everybody else said before us. We're here to help, and nothing has happened until we're kicking and screaming. That's not okay.
Thank you for your comment. One of the items we did not get to address is actually the acceleration of the process whereby we can bring in additional volunteers to come in. And Director Ranchetti had set up several, you know what, I don't want to speak on your behalf. Could you take the mic, please, Ted?
Yeah, we've established an agreement with the local company to do live scan at no cost to volunteers, whether parent volunteers or other volunteers. And we're working on that plan to bring in, I think we discussed as many as 50 volunteers.
So So I wish to. So allow me to say this though, just as you and I are careful about or are we mindful about the misapplication of sometimes people that we do not know, the law really requires to go through the process and inviting volunteers to come in, but all have to be processed and fingerprinting and TB checked. And Director Von Tretti is addressing that at this point. We going through this as quickly as we can without costing the parents of anything at all. So more information will be forthcoming, and that's something that we would share with the board tomorrow as well. I understand.
We cannot just let people use on campus.
So may I offer something? So as we're getting our folks expedited, we also need to put a protocol in place for training, and that can happen urgently and quickly, because in terms of how to work with our children, we want help. We want you to be trained how to help and do that pretty quickly. It's not just about letting a legion of our wonderful parents on campus interacting with all of our children. So we're going to work on it as you're getting processed. Do small training and cadres, on de-escalation and how we talk with our children. It is critical, but we're going to work quickly. Well, I hear you, parents, and we have. I wish we had, in other districts that I've been in, but it is important that we process and we get you trained. We're going to do that rapidly.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We're going to wrap up with our closing remarks as we want to honor everyone's time. So if we have a final comment, Mr. Tran, do you have a final comment, or do you want me just to add? Okay, so go ahead. Do you have a final comment?
So if I could, I have asked our participants here tonight with the understanding that 8 p.m. is the ending time. So I'm asking the chief and I, please. I'm asking the chief and I to stay afterwards, and those of us who could stay afterward to address, but I'm unable to hold everyone. Tomorrow is still a work full day for a lot of our staff. So we will stay, but at this time, I'm going to ask that we ending the conversation tonight, and those of us. So forgive me, those of us who would like to stay, the chief of police and I will stay here to address you. May I invite our guests to thank you for your time, and we will